Hi there, this is Ronnie, Amber's Night, coming at you with a video. This is another overview for a war game that I own, and this is by far my favourite. I've been waiting a while to do this one. I thought it's about time I do this, and that game is Revenge by Emperor's Press. I'm going to talk about that one primarily, but I'm also going to talk about two other ones in conjunction with it. Revenge, first of all, has a supplement, which is the Normans. And I'm also going to talk about two medieval games released by Tabletop Games, and that is Lance, 3rd edition, and Siege. I bought Revenge some years ago at Claymore, which is a wargames convention in Edinburgh, and I love it. I think it's a beautifully simple system. It's designed for 15mm and it's designed for big battles. You can have smaller battles if you want, but it's designed for big armies. It has an interesting way of working out casualties. You have a table, which I will show you, because you get these nice. There's the main table. Now I know what you're thinking, holy hell. But you only need one of that. You cross-check the weapon that you're using with the armor class of the opponent. It gives you a number. You then add and subtract various modifiers from that number, and then that number is cross-checked at the bottom at the melee results table here at the bottom, and that gives you the percentage of casualties that you have inflicted. It's a very simple system. It does require a bit of a calculator because you are dealing in percentages, but it's hit a couple of buttons and you've got them there. I find the rules very easy to follow. I find that they're very fluid. And every medieval game that I've played has used those rules. I've played other games with other medieval rules. They've been fun. I've enjoyed them, but I don't think they compare to Revenge. Inside those rules are one set of rules for mass battles, one set of rules for siege, and another set of rules for medieval naval engagements. So you get a lot of bang for your buck off of this. The Normans, I'll get to in a moment. Are there problems with Revenge? Is it perfect? No, it's not. There are some devastating typos, including one which completely upends the combat system unless you repair it. But that's a niggle. It's easily repaired. Once you realise what the combat system does, you realise that it's missing and it's been put the other way around, so you just put it back again. The big problem with it is the lack of an army list. There are no army lists. And that is a problem if you want to use these rules, is the lack of an army list. The Normans, which is the supplement for it, does go some way to addressing that problem. But there are some typo issues in there as well. But it's a good supplement, and there's lots of scenarios, including Hastings, amongst others, which are well worth having a look at. But all is not lost. Turn now to Lance, which you can get for pittance these days if you look on eBay. And it is a battle system for medieval armies in 25mm as opposed to 15, although you can do it in 15 if you want. There is some complexity to this rule which I don't like, particularly firing for bows. But what it does have in the back is worth its weight in gold, and that is army lists. I sat down and I have done two different versions, slightly differing versions of conversion tables between the armies represented in these rules and converting them to the stats needed for revenge. It is very easy to do because there are enough similarities between the two that you can easily come up with a conversion. As such, for an extra couple of quid, because revenge you can usually find online quite cheap these days. You can get a full set of army lists for you to use, and they're very easy to find, very easy to convert. Siege, which is designed for 15mm, obviously for sieges, but it's interesting because they're more skirmish rules than anything else. In fact, you could ostensibly remove all the siege references from this and simply use it as a medieval skirmish set. The figures, the figures are 1 to 8 scale, one figure representing 8 actual men. So when you take 8 hits, you remove a figure. Now you could easily call it 1 to 1, and each person has 8 hit points, and just run it as a straight skirmish game for medieval times. And within those bounds, it works very well. And you could easily use it for 25, 28mm figures as well. So I think it actually works surprisingly well. Both these systems have a points value system for buying figures, something else which Revenge does not. Using either of those systems as a basis for armies for revenge is perfectly viable. Requires a little jiggery pokery with some figures, but ultimately you could do it with either of those. I love Revenge. I think it is, even with its shortcomings regarding a lack of an army list, I still think it's the best medieval miniatures rules I've ever come across. Very fluid. It definitely it definitely rewards tactical play. Some people have argued that the results of any conflict are, you can see how it's going to go before you make a move. To an extent that's true, but there's a lot of subtlety in the detail. Nothing is entirely set in stone. So whilst you might think it's going to go a certain way, there's no guarantee it will. So there is some fluidity to that. If you can't get a hold of Revenge, Lance is a good set of rules. I think the only problem with Lance is a problem that happens with a lot of these figures. A lot of what tabletop games were doing is the figure scale is 1 to 20, and when you're dealing casualties, it does it in casualties of actual men rather than figures. And what that means is that it will give you a casualty of say 110 men, which you then have to divide by 20 in your head to decide how many figures you're actually taking off and how many casualties are left over, rather than doing it in terms of actual figures, number of figures, which makes sense in and of itself, but I think doing it in terms of actual figures is just easier to work out on an actual table. That having been said, if you're prepared to do that, if you can't find Revenge, Lines is fairly good. Siege is a very good set of rules. I haven't used it for Siege, but the skirmish rules alone are well worth trying to find this one on eBay. As I say, I love Revenge. I will use it. I will continue to use it. Yes, I've had to make an amendment or two, but quite frankly, there's no rule system where I haven't had to. What you have is a fantastic set of rules. Easy, simple, very quick, beautiful, and allow for. I've had people say, "Oh, it's far too complicated." No, it's not. Oh, you're going to be playing for hours. Oh, that depends. I've seen games with big armies last about an hour because of tactical mistakes that people have made, or tactical advantages that people have taken. I've been very impressed with Emperor's Press. I know they're out of business now, but I like Revenge. I like Warfare in the Age of Reason, which they also did, of which there are similarities between the two. I also purchased recently Warfare in the Age of Napoleon by the same people, which again, I haven't had a chance to use it, but having flipped through the rules, it looks alright. I love the medieval period, and for my money, Revenge is the best. If you can find some way of getting army lists and with a little jiggery pokery do the conversion notes, Revenge is a perfectly solid set of rules to use for medieval warfare. So I would recommend them. If you can't get that, these two books are well worth your time as well. And I'll be back with you soon with another video.